Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here, another Halloween movie review for my marathon of these movies for the channel. And this one is in this DVD box that I got many years ago, as I've shown you guys numerous times in the previous reviews I did for A Curse of Michael Myers. This is a set I got with my grandmother back at Kmart, pretty much the same day I picked up most of the Puppet Master movies and those kind of low-budget, full moon productions or features, whatever they're called, sets. This one has Halloween Curse of Michael Myers theatrical cut, it has H20 and it has Resurrection in it, and here it is. H20 is a film that I loved the first time I saw it, and then the next couple of times I saw it, I thought it was alright. It kind of slumps a little bit in the middle, and I don't feel any different about that this time around. However, this time around watching this movie, it's been a couple of years, I don't think I watched it last year. I usually don't watch all of the movies when I marathon them. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This time, I really liked this. For whatever reason, I guess I was paying more attention this time around than I usually do. Some things just landed better for me, and I realized, compared to Halloween 2018, I can't believe I'm about to say this, I think I like this more than 2018. As well made and well crafted, and much as a fan service movie that movie is, I think I like this more. I'm kind of dumbfounded with myself about believing that. However, this film came out in 1998, actually 20 years before 2018. 2018, in case you don't know, is actually H40. H20 is a stupid title. I know it's supposed to be pronounced H20, because it's 20 years later. That's also the subtitle of this movie. Halloween H20 is, for the most part, based around a Scream look. Scream came out the same year The Curse of Michael Myers came out, the theatrical cut, and Scream was phenomenal. I think it's a better movie than this, for sure. But H20 for me, again, I used to think it was more of a mixed bag than it actually is. It actually has a very good set of characters. It has a lot of good pluses. It doesn't really have any negatives to it. Just the Scream-o-ween is really what it is. It has a lot of Scream's features to it. Apparently even Kevin Williamson, the guy who wrote Scream 1, 2, 3, and I believe 4, was tied to this at some point, doing some kind of treatment on it of some sort. He didn't write the actual thing, but I think he did an early draft of some sort, or something like that. It's clearly Scream-o-ween. It feels like Scream. It looks like Scream. It has that very 1990s cleaned-up slasher look, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, like Scream, all those different franchises like that. Whether you like that or not, it's up to you. For me, I don't mind it. I'm a big fan of 90s slashers, too. Not a massive fan or anything, but I like them. I don't typically have an issue with them. There's a lot of series I haven't even seen before, like the Urban Legends series, or Valentine, which is its own movie, not a series. Anyway, Scream-o-ween, Halloween H20, 3 years after The Curse of Michael Myers, seemed to be a massive flop and be a thing that the fans, typically most fans, typically seem to make fun of. I don't think many fans were really clamoring for another direct sequel to that. Apparently this film was supposed to be keeping 4, 5, and 6 in continuity, but overall all that stuff was removed, even the things that were shot were removed. So it's pretty much connected just to Halloween 1 and 2, and everything else just kind of sidelined, you know? Kind of like how Halloween 2018 just acknowledges the original movie, not Part 2. This one maintains Part 1 and Part 2 because Michael and Laurie are still brother and sister. So this film has clearly a higher budget than the previous few movies. 4, 5, and 6. I think 4 and 5 had $10 million budgets. I think 6 had like a 5 or 10, somewhere in there. This is like a $17 million budget movie. And it looks like it. It looks a lot better than Curse of Michael Myers. If you've been watching through these films for the first time ever as an adult, or even as a kid, or anything like that, if you went from being disappointed with how 4, 5, mainly 5 and 6 look, when you get to this, it's beautiful looking. It takes place in California. It's not in Haddonfield, which was bizarre to me. It's kind of a nice little nod to how Haddonfield is California when they filmed the original movies. It's kind of nice. I like that. Anyway, what is this film about? Well, basically, Jamie Lee Curtis came back alongside Janet Leigh, who was in a small part here. Her mother, who played in Psycho, if you remember. She was murdered in a shower. Jamie Lee Curtis comes back as Laurie Strode. She actually changed her name, changed her identity, went into a witness protection program type of thing, and her new name is Carrie Tate. She is essentially the head mistress at a I'm assuming a Catholic school, a Catholic private school of some sort, because there's a stained glass window at one point that has like Catholic figures and whatever on the background. I assume it's a Catholic private school of some sort, but they don't really just straight out state like the religious part of that. Anyway, it's a private school. Her and her son live on campus. Her son is Josh Hartnett. It's one of his first ever productions or acting jobs, I think. It might have been his first ever movie. It's amazing how many people this franchise has introduced to bigger careers, like, Paul Rudd, for example. Ellie Cornell, in my opinion, really didn't take off until she was in this franchise. Danielle Harris. People know these names, typically. Most people don't know who, like, Danielle Harris is, but the horror community does. The horror community knows all these people. And Josh Hartnett, 30 Days of Night. Is it 30 Days of Night? Yeah, 30 Days of Night, the vampire film. Amazing flick. Love that movie. Scared me to death when I was a kid and saw that for the first time. He's a good actor. He's a good actor, and he's really good as Jamie Lee Curtis' son. They kind of have a strained relationship. This film starts pretty much like the day before Halloween. We have a prologue of Marion, the nurse from the original film that was traveling with Donald Pleasance to go get Michael when all the patients are walking out of the lawn of the asylum. She is attacked at home, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is her next-door neighbor, and he comes over because she thinks somebody broke in. And that introduction, that first 10 minutes are really well done. I really enjoy it. Again, it really pushes this Scream-ween thing. It feels like the introduction to the Scream movie with Drew Barrymore. I really like all that. But then we get to the actual story about Carrie Tate, Jamie Lee Curtis' new name. Her and her son living on campus at this school. It's been 20 years. No one's heard or seen tale of Michael Myers, at least amongst themselves. But Carrie, around Halloween, gets very paranoid. She's a very paranoid person in general. Not to the extent of like Halloween 2018 with that version of Jamie Lee Curtis, but like in this timeline, she's mostly fine. She's paranoid, but she's fine. She's a career woman. She's a businesswoman. She has kind of this headmistress job really by the neck. She has a boyfriend here who works, who's actually Adam Arkin, who was on Sons of Anarchy. He had to do a horrible thing with two other guys in Sons of Anarchy Season 2 to a particular character I love. I won't spoil that for you in case you haven't seen that show. Great show, by the way. But they actually wore bald Michael Myers masks in that episode. It was really great. If you haven't seen that show, you're missing out. But yeah, go look up Adam Arkin in Sons of Anarchy with the scene I'm referring to. It was wild. And the bald Michael Myers mask, I brought that up to my mom when we watched that. She didn't believe me, and then she realized when she saw it, she's like, oh my god, it is. Never saw Michael Myers bald until then. I guess it's where Halloween 5 was heading, with the mask having a receding hairline. Anyway, so it's Halloween. There's a trip to Yosemite coming up, and Josh Hartnett wants to go. His friends want to go, but they also kind of have like this scheme that they kind of just don't want to go. They want to have excuses not to have to go so they can go hide out, have a nice romantic dinner and stuff. It's him and his girlfriend Michelle Williams, surprisingly, from Blue Valentine, from Home Improvement, from a lot of things you probably know, like Venom, for example. Great actress, really, really well talented. Again, another actress that the series has really kicked off a career for. Jamie Lee Curtis has her whole Freaky Friday haircut going on, and her whole persona feels like the Freaky Friday Jamie Lee Curtis I grew up on. It's a lot different from the Laurie Strode we know from back in the day. A lot less annoying, in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of Laurie Strode in the original film. She's fine. Jamie Lee Curtis' performance is fine there. She's a lot better here. I like her more here than I do in 2018 in Kills as well. I'm assuming when Ends comes out, same thing there. But I think she's really solid here. What else did I really need to reference? Oh, we have like a security guard played by LL Cool J throughout the film, and he's really good. I like him as well. Everybody's well cast here. I like the two friends that are partying with Josh Hartnett and his girlfriend Michelle Williams. I think all that stuff really works well, and I like the atmosphere. Even though it doesn't feel like fall, it doesn't look like fall, it looks like fall in California. A lot of green leaves and stuff. That original movie that was filmed in California got a lot of grief because of that, because it didn't have like fall leaves everywhere on the trees and everything. I think that's a lame excuse to get mad about that movie, but a lot of people do for whatever reason. The longer the time goes on, people hate that about that movie. I don't know why. Very nitpicky, very lame in my opinion. Anyway, so this movie is very much like that. It's not really a fall movie, and it has its moments that it feels kind of fallish. But overall, I like the look of the film. I think it looks really good. It's directed by, what's his name? Steve Miner, who did House, for example. Steve Miner's a very talented guy. I like House a lot, too, if you haven't seen that film. It's got a lot to offer. It's a really fun little flick. I don't know if I would really lean into calling this a slasher movie. Kind of like the original film is not really a slasher movie. Part 2 is. Then this film has its moments of being a slasher film, but for the most part, it's really not. It's just kind of a Halloween movie. It feels like a Halloween movie. It's clever, it's well made, it has moments of Michael just lurking in the background of shots, and then there's some where he's a little bit too much in the front, in my opinion. One of my biggest complaints about this movie, now that I can move on into other things, we don't have Donald Pleasance. In his absence, this being the first one he's ever not been in, is a little weird. Yeah, they ruined Loomis in 5. Yeah, in 6 he's so sick in real life that you can't really get over seeing that. Loomis isn't in this film almost at all. He's brought up, he's mentioned here and there, but he's not really brought up because he's not alive. You know, poor Donald Pleasance had passed away by this point, so that's really sad in my opinion. The big thing for me with this movie is Michael. The guy cast for him. Who played him here? I didn't even look into that. I forgot. I knew I was forgetting something. Come on. Who played Michael Myers? I assume it's this guy Chris Durand. He's the only person named Michael. I assume. Yeah, I guess. Anyway, that fellow's really good. He's really good. The biggest thing for me is that Michael is acting more with his eyes. We actually see Michael's eyes throughout this movie. Unlike all of the previous films, we see Michael's eyes, even when the mask is on. It's never really taken off, but that's weird. And it's weird to watch. I always realized growing up that there was something different about this Michael Myers, and I like him, don't get me wrong, it's one of my favorite Michaels in the whole series, but there was something different about how he looked, and it started this whole thing, like with Resurrection being like that, the Rob Zombie films being like that, for the most part, not always, but for the most part being like that. 2018 doesn't have that, Kills doesn't have that, they have moments, but not really anything aside from that. This film started this idea of having these massive holes for Michael's eyes where you can see him looking out, and it's effective. But it really brings through a really good performance from that actor. I think he's good here. And I like the look of Michael, too. One of the biggest mess-ups in all of the franchise's history is at one particular scene, or a couple of scenes, when there's a CGI mask. You can't really tell too well, but when you see it, it looks weird enough that you're like, something's wrong there. It's a different mask or something. And then in real life, a little bit later on, you find out it's a CGI mask, and boy, oh boy, is it bad. Again, all the casting is really good. I like everybody. I think everybody does a really good job. Not just a solid job, not just a fine job or a decent job. They do a really good job. I really like everybody in the film. Even the side characters like LL Cool J, who's really funny. He's a guy who wants to be a novelist, and he's a security guard. Even his wife, who's cast here, is really funny. She's just a voice on a phone, and she's fun. I like it all. I think the writing is really strong for the most part, and I think the ending really lands it, man. I think it's a really good ending, that a Resurrection comes around, even though I don't hate Resurrection like everybody else does. It's a weak movie, don't get me wrong, but that movie took the ending and the finale of this movie, that should have been, in my opinion, the last one we ever got, and it ruined it. It really, really ruined it. And again, like I just said, if H2O, H20, whatever you want to call this thing, was the final one we ever got, I would have been completely cool with that. If we had never had a sequel in between 2 and this one, I would have been fine with that. It all works for me. I think it all comes together very, very well. It's well edited. It's very smooth. The camera work is the best it's ever been in the franchise, in my opinion, even compared to the original John Carpenter movie. That film has better atmosphere than this, but this film has some good tension, some good atmosphere stuff, some kills and whatever that you haven't seen in this franchise done the way it is before. And it looks great on top of that. I like the actual school campus thing. I think that looks really cool. There's not really any CGI aside from the CGI mask. However, the practical effects, the stabbing and all that, it looks great. It looks so good. There's one scene involving a dumbwaiter, and the practical effects involved with that. Even though there's not a lot of kills in this movie, there are some. But when they're there, they are effective, dude. There's some stuff in here that kind of shocked me by how well done it was. One in particular that really gets to me and everybody else, I think, who are fans of this movie. It's weird to me, too, how over time people have come to hate this movie or really think it hasn't aged that well. I can see how a lot of the 90s films haven't aged that well. I get it with this one to an extent, but it still looks good. It's still fun to watch. It has some good moments in it, but again, the middle kind of slumps a little bit. So I think the original film is a better movie than this, but this is good. This is entertaining. I enjoy it a lot. The music here, the music goes back, it jumps away from Halloween 6 theatrical cut of having the rock version, that rendition of the theme song. It jumps away from that. It kind of just has the original theme song and only that. But it goes back to more of a piano version that's more of an updated version of that original movie's rendition, and I kind of like that. if you're a fan of that old movie, you're going to probably like this for the most part. If you've never seen it, I think you're going to be even more for a surprise after all these years of not watching this. And now there's an ambulance outside. Somebody died down the street from me the other day, like yesterday. I meant to tell you guys that in the video. Apparently I found out about that last night. Some lady got hit. It was crazy. But anyway, music's very solid. I like it a lot. I don't really have anything else to say. When it comes to H20, it gets overlooked a lot. I think it's very underrated. It used to not be. When I was a kid, people used to say this is like the best of the franchise. And that was before Rob Zombie's films starting in 2007. But I remember people loving this movie back in the day, and people, for whatever reason, when 2018 came out, when Kills came out, people hate this movie, and I do not understand it. I think it's a very strong one, and a very good one with a really, really good ending, with a really tense third act. It works really well for me, and it's kind of short, too. It's only about an hour and 20 minutes, really. It flies by, and I miss when horror movies, and just movies in general, were more at, like, that pace and that length. You know, these new movies are like 2 hours a piece, and it's a lot. It's a lot, man. It's too much sometimes. Anyway, when it comes to Halloween H20 or H20, 20 years later, the subtitle says, from 1998, if I had to rate this film on a 5-star basis, even on a DVD copy, I think it looks really good. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I would easily give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's a very fun, very watchable movie, even if the middle is a little slumpy. It has great character stuff in here I really like. I like the updates on characters like Laurie Strode. I miss Donald Pleasance, but everything else really came together for me, and I think it really, really works. All these different careers that were jumped off from this movie really speaks volumes about the quality of everything from the acting to the writing in this movie. Anyway, H20, what do you guys think about this movie? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Put all your thoughts and comments down below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this flick. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Is it one of your favorites, or are you one of the people who kind of got to the point that you don't like this movie? And again, there for a while I was one of those people, but for right now, I really liked it. I was kind of surprised by how much I enjoyed it this time. Anyway, now to move on to Resurrection. We're getting close. We're over the halfway mark, and I have like 5 more movies to watch. I'm probably going to be able to finish Resurrection before I go to work today, but I probably won't be able to record a review before I have to go. Anyway, put your thoughts and comments down below, guys. Happy Halloween. 4 out of 5 stars for Halloween H20. God bless you guys. Goodbye.